In a world filled with technology, smartphones, and social media, we easily become distracted and disconnected from the world around us, from our friends, our family, and even ourselves. Even though social media plays a huge part in today's businesses and marketing, and a great way for loved ones to remain in contact, sometimes we find ourselves a little too engrossed at the dinner table with our signif that we're not engaging in conversation with them. How many of us are guilty of this habit? Waking up first thing in the morning and checking our Facebook or Twitter status instead of allowing ourselves the time we need to fully awake and begin our thought process for the day. Do you also find yourself walking down the street so engrossed with your mobile device that you've had close encounters with other pedestrians and speeding cars? If this sounds like you, well, you're in luck. On today's show, my guest Holland Haiis, author of Consciously Connecting, will help us to not only balance the virtual and real world, she'll also help us to reconnect with the world around us, including ourselves. Stay tuned. Hi there, I'm Jason Galka, and thank you so much as always for joining me. We are back in New York City today at the home of Holland Haiis. Did I say that correctly?
You did, perfectly.
Oh, excellent. And you are the author of Consciously Connecting, which I love. It's a simple process to reconnect in this disconnected world that we live in. Thank you so much for opening the doors of your home to us today.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here, so thank you.
Thank you. Well, I love your book. I mean, we spoke a couple of weeks ago. We met through a mutual friend, our good friend Laura Sikorsky, actually.
Yes.
And she put us in touch with one another, which I'm so thankful for because we hit it right off. And we spoke about so many relatable topics. We live in a world now with social media, smartphones, other types of technology that we kind of get consumed in, right? And we tend to get disconnected from ourselves, our loved ones, even our jobs sometimes. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, here's something. Think of this fact for a moment. We are living in the 21st century with more technology than we've ever had in our lives, yet we are the most disconnected from ourselves and each other. So we stop and we say, how can that possibly be? And this is the question that I get all the time, which led me on my personal quest to try to figure out why I was disconnected and what I needed to do, and then come up with some of the ideas for the book.
Right. And we're going to get to the book itself a little bit later in the show because you actually have a really great breakdown here. It's not necessarily chapters, but you have set this book up where if somebody started reading it January 1st, they have 12 months to make these improvements for themselves. And it's more of a guide.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I mentioned that you can pick up the book at any time. The idea was to break it down into the 12 months of the year, giving each month its own theme. So I thought that would be really exciting and kind of catch people's attention as to the different how-tos. So how to reconnect to your life as far as other people, how to reconnect to your life as far as loving yourself, because, you know, a lot of us struggle with that.
Yeah.
And how to reconnect to playtime. You know, we all look forward to summer, and we would all love to play like kids, but how do we reconnect to that? So there are 4 exercises each month that take you on the journey of that month's theme.
That's fascinating. And it's worked for so many people. I mean, you've had great feedback on
I've
this.
had wonderful feedback, and it's so
Wow.
exciting. And I know that you've been doing some of the journeys.
I
So
have.
I'm really interested to hear about your
Yes,
thoughts,
well,
too.
one that we spoke to, I mean, when we spoke on the phone a few weeks back, we talked about going hashtag off the grid. And for those of you that, you know, haven't heard us talk about it, it was a date night with my fiance, John, who you hear about all the time. We were actually going out to dinner and a movie that night, a traditional date. Like, we love doing fun things like that. But any other time that we go to a restaurant or we're out someplace, at some point in time, we're picking up our phone, checking Facebook, Instagram, whatever it might be. And it was kind of hard to not have access to that, because here's what we did. I tweeted about it, of course, because I love Twitter now.
And you created the hashtag, so thank you. I loved that you jumped in and did that.
So if you would like, you know, hashtag off the grid, and that's where you have a date night with your signif, as I like to say. You go to a restaurant or wherever, you leave your phone at home or you leave it in the car, just not have it on you. It was actually kind of difficult, as halfway through the meal, I'm like, I really just wanted to pick up my phone and, you know, what's happening on Facebook? And for me, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I feel like most people get so comfortable in relationships that, you feel comfortable just picking up your phone while the person's sitting across from you. I mean, obviously now this is not the time, and we're not even thinking about picking up our phone.
Right.
But
Well,
why
we hope we're not.
We hope we're not. We have a great distraction here at the moment. But why do you think so many people are so clung to their phone?
Well, we've gotten so used to doing so much on our devices. And the problem is we've lost a sense of the boundaries when to disconnect, when it's time to disconnect. Because unfortunately, our phone can't talk back to us and say, you're being really rude at the table. You need to put me down.
They haven't programmed Siri to do that yet.
We need to come up with an app for that, actually.
Uh-huh.
Because what is happening is we are forgetting the boundary of someone has taken time out of their schedule. We've taken time out of our schedule, and we know how crazy everyone's schedules are. So when we get together, we want to make sure that we are engaging with the person or people that we're spending the time with and not engaging to social media. It's great to post those selfies or those group photos. You can do it when you get home, and
Absolutely.
it'll be just as interesting as doing it at that moment. The reason my husband and I started going off the grid is we found ourselves in the same pattern that you and John were in. And I think the pattern of disengagement and disconnection that so many people are feeling.
And so many people don't even realize they're doing it.
They don't.
Now that we're talking about this, people are probably like, oh, wait, last night, wherever they were probably looking on their phone. You see it in the movie theaters all the time. You see the little glows of light sporadically all over the place. I mean, you go to a movie to watch a movie. And I hate to age myself down here, but, we didn't have this in like the 80s and the 90s, of course, when I grew up. When you went out someplace, that's where you were, and that's all that you did. I saw something on Facebook the other day that reminded me of this little conversation. It was a photo of a bunch of kids' bikes outside on a lawn, and the saying was, you didn't know where your friends were by social media. When you saw the bikes parked out front on somebody's yard, that's where you knew your friends were. Now there's Facebook. Now there's Twitter and Instagram to know your every move.
Yes, so let's talk about the disconnect there, because
Yes.
that's a really great point. You used to know where everyone in the neighborhood was because you were living in the moment, you were out and about, and you saw all those bikes. Isn't it sad that so often people who are good friends, people who are neighbors, people who are coworkers don't know that someone's on vacation in Costa Rica unless they see it on Facebook? Again, it lets us know how disengaged and how disconnected we are.
Yeah.
So here's one thing. Let's challenge your viewers.
Okay.
Everyone watching, take the going off the grid seriously. 7 days. So the next time you meet someone for coffee, the next time you go to the movies, the next time you have a date night, or maybe you take a chunk of time on Saturday or Sunday and say, I'm going to take 2 hours of errands or 2 hours of fun in the park riding the bike. I'm going to leave all devices home.
Yeah,
Trust
give
me,
that a shot.
if there's an emergency, someone else will have a
Right.
phone. You're okay. So it was hard for you.
Yeah, it was kind of difficult because, John and I, we're very comfortable, we're very secure with each other. So it's easier for us to just pick up our phone in front of each other and go on Facebook. We don't think anything of it.
Sure.
But the reality of it is we're supposed to be spending quality time together, and we're really not. We're in the same place together. We're sitting across from one another. He's on his phone. I'm on mine. We're not really spending that time together, and people don't realize that.
That's right. All you're doing is sharing the same surroundings, sharing the same space. But you're not connecting to what each other's needs are. You're not sharing your feelings. You're not talking about goals. You're not talking about the trip you just took or the trip you're going to take. It's all about engaging with someone else. And when you think about that, the more we do that with our significant others, it's a little insulting.
Yeah.
Because it's basically saying, I see you all the time. I take you for granted. I can connect with you whenever I want. Da, 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 da.
Yes, it's so true. And now, like I said, so many people are probably at home going right now,
Oh,
yeah.
I do that. Yes. It is interesting when I lead workshops how many people, this is such a simple idea, which is why it's easy and anybody can do it. They can start now. People haven't thought of it. And so it's simple. So I hope
Yes,
your
please
viewers
take the challenge.
jump in.
Let's
Yes.
make a new hashtag, the 7-day challenge.
There you go. All
off
right.
the grid. And let's
off
see
the
if you can do it.
grid.
And definitely, keep in touch with us. My email through my website, of course, jasongalka.com. And let us know how you do. We'll be happy to post your experiences and talk about it.
Great.
So I'm actually laughing because when I first started reading your book, I haven't finished it yet. What I find fascinating about it and what I could really relate to is the part when you first begin in the introduction, you're in the park, you're on your emails, and you
Yes.
have all these close encounters with speeding taxis.
Yes, I'm someone that's usually very acutely aware of my surroundings. Friends and family joke with me that I know everything that's going on all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was happening 5 feet in front of me, which is, when you think about that, that's a little scary. That's really a disconnection.
Yeah.
And it was my favorite time of year. Everything was blooming. I love spring. And I really stopped and I looked up and I thought, oh my gosh, I am one of them. I had crossed over to the other side. And I thought, boy, I really need to get this in check. So I started to think, what could I do? And again, I was hearing from a lot of clients that they were feeling disconnected. So many of us are feeling that disconnect, but didn't know how and don't know how to reconnect, which is what brought me to the journey of writing the book. So it's the simple how-tos for reconnecting.
Okay, so if I could just jump back a little bit.
Yes.
The people that came to you and said, I'm feeling disconnected, what were some of the signs, for lack of a better term, that they were experiencing?
So some of the signs: I'm really tired. I end my week on Friday. I can barely get off the sofa until it's Monday morning.
Wow.
I am continuing to do work through the entire weekend. How do I stop that? So these were some of the things that I was hearing over and over. And people were also saying to me, you have a real love for life. How do you do that? You try new ethnic restaurants. You go to museums to see shows. You talk about going to the theater. How do you have the time and the energy? So again, I thought, well, gosh, if you live in an amazing city like New York City and you're not taking advantage of some of these wonderful gifts that are right outside of our doors,
You're really missing out.
you're missing out, and that's a huge disconnect.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of what I was hearing.
So as a wife, as a career woman, you've helped businesses also as well as individuals. I mean, what has worked for you as far as getting reconnected? I mean, when did you first realize that maybe you were kind of disconnected from your husband?
Gosh, we work really long hours. I mean, he has insane hours.
Yeah.
And
We do
so,
too.
yeah, I mean, everybody does, really. We don't monopolize that. Everyone's got it these days. So for us, it was really about going off the grid, really making the conscious choice. We also have made the conscious choice that when we go on vacation, we disconnect. So we'll take a cell phone if there's an emergency. I call and check in with my mom, but we leave it locked in the hotel safe. We don't take it out with us. And I know a lot of people right now might be saying, what about Google Maps? And what about pictures? And what about those things?
They're just excuses to go on Facebook.
They're excuses. We have gone on vacation and sat in some amazing places in the world and watched people as they're posting Facebook and they're talking about this. And they can be in front of one of the world's most magnificent waterfalls, cathedrals, and they're missing it. They're missing being in the moment. We have walked away from being human beings, and we're turning into just human doings, just constantly trying to do more instead of just
sort of become like robotic towards it. Another challenge I'm just thinking as we're talking about this, I would love for people to just keep track of how many times they pick up their phone just to go on like a Facebook or to post a selfie. It's one thing if you're working, your email is there. I mean, I have my email set up. I have business text messages that I answer throughout the day. That's okay. But when you're supposed to be having me time or we time with your signif, keep track of how many times you actually pick up that phone just to check a Facebook status. I think people would be surprised. We don't realize we do it.
Yes. I had a lot of people in March where that becomes the month where you start to exercise and you start to connect to your food choices, make some better choices. And I talk about you can't use your phone for anything but music. So it means you have to, if you hear that ping, and you have to leave it alone while you're exercising. And I can't tell you how many emails that I got where people said, I can't do this with my phone. What do I do? I'm listening to the music. The texts are coming in. I'm hearing the instant message from Facebook. So I had to write back and say, you gotta do it without then. Leave it
Yeah.
home. And the quality of exercise and their quiet solitude, centering time has really increased, and they are back to, checking in with themselves, which is
Yeah.
what that exercise time should be about.
Well, little suggestion for anybody that I have the iPhone and you have the iPhone, so we can
Yes.
suggest if you are an iPhone holder, there's the airplane mode. You can turn all of that off and still keep your music.
That's a great idea.
So you're not even
That's
going to
a
know
great
any
way
of
to
that
do it.
until you turn it off.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah. Well, Holland, well, we're in your home, so of course you're sticking
I
around.
have to stay here.
We're not booting you out. We come back more with Holland and Consciously Connecting. Don't go away.
Want to stay in touch with Jason or possibly be a guest on the show? Follow Jason on Twitter at Jason Galka and visit www.jasongalka.com to book a segment, rewatch your favorite episodes, and check out some backstage web exclusives.
Hi there, we are back, and I'm in the home of author of Consciously Connecting, Holland Haiis today. Again, thank you so much for opening your doors today. We're having great conversation. We were just talking during our little break here about somebody that had reached out to you through Instant Messenger with a very plain hi, hello, and nothing else. Let's talk about people that want to connect, but they really don't know how to. I get that all the time on Twitter.
Yes, yes. Well, with some businesses, I work on a 3-text, 3-email rule. I've tried to institute this in a lot of offices, and then I've tried to share this with individuals as well. It's really easy to keep texting, to keep emailing, but if it's the same subject, either something's getting lost in translation or this turns into a really big time waster. So a way that you can connect more efficiently and you can really hear the excitement of the person on the other end of the phone is make that call. Pick it up. Hey, John, where do you want to have dinner? Do you feel like sushi or do you feel like Chinese? It's kind of nice in the middle of the day.
Two of his favorite things.
Right, but isn't it, oh, see, I knew that. Isn't it kind of nice, though, in the middle of the day to reach out and have that verbal communication as opposed to just the texting? I love when my husband surprises me and he reaches out and he says, I'm just calling to say hi, how's your day going? It's like, oh, it's kind of exciting. So I would say to people, again, take that challenge and see if you can at least one time a day reach out to a coworker, reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member just to say, hey, just wanted to reach out. I love you. Thanks for everything, and we'll talk soon. Goodbye.
Yeah,
it's really
something
nice.
so simple like that. And it's more personal than a text. I mean, a text, number one, or an email is very hard to decipher tone. I mean, I'll get a message sometime, and I kind of get annoyed about it because of the way it's written, but I know the person who's writing it to me wouldn't mean it in that tone. So you can often confuse the connection there too. But I do have to say one thing that John and I are very good at is that we do pick up the phone several times a day throughout the work day. We have a moment. Hey, how's your day going? What's going on? Or he'll call me as he's walking to the subway and we'll talk for a few minutes. So we have great connection like that.
So that's nice. You're already working on the Consciously Connecting.
We just have to get through the dinner of not picking up the phone.
Well, if you put it on mute and you put it in a drawer, you won't even know.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. We have an electronics drawer in our kitchen, and we put the iPads in, we put the phones in, we close the drawer, we have our meal, and we wouldn't know if the world was collapsing around us.
Wow. That's so great. So before we get to your book, though, I want to give a generalization quickly of how people that maybe can relate to what we're talking about today realize, wait, I'm a little disconnected from my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my husband, my wife. How can they reconnect overall?
Great question. There are a couple of simple things that they can do. So first of all, a lot of people don't know how disconnected they are. That's something that's really difficult to figure out. So one thing I would say is if what we've been talking about, if you're texting through meals, if you're meeting friends and you go home and someone says to you, so how was your meal? How was seeing so-and-so? And you can't even answer the question, you're really disconnected. Yeah. And so again, put the devices away. Another thing that we really need, and this is really easy to do, is when you're maybe going to the subway, shut things down. Maybe when you're waiting for the bus. Maybe before a meeting, get to the boardroom a little early, sit there, and just have a little silence. Have a little focusing time. Pull everything back in. And again, it's amazing what wisdom we get when we spend a little time kind of steeping in silence. I ask people to take this challenge as well. So, devices. Let's shut everything down 1 hour before bed and spend a little bit of time gauging what you want to do the next day, a little bit of time gauging what you were really grateful for, good things that are coming your way. Wind it down, okay? You'll sleep more soundly. You will wake up more refreshed. So again, when you wake up more refreshed that next day, you hit the ground running with a better stride. And again, another challenge, really easy to do. In the morning, don't reach for those devices right away. Give yourself shower time, coffee time, kiss someone good morning time before you plug in. So take that 30 minutes or 1 hour. You know, everyone kind of does their shower at, different paces. So I need the hour. But
you and me both.
But okay, good. So take that hour before you run and rush out of bed, and the first thing is you're doing this. Because again, when you're in the shower and you're not worrying about emails and texting, you're allowed to say, okay, I've got this presentation today, or I'm meeting with this new client, or I'm seeing my sister for the first time in 5 years. Gosh, what do I really want to share with her? It allows you to reconnect to your own power.
Yeah.
And that's a true sign when we're disconnected from that. That's a real sign that
I think people may realize that, okay, maybe I am a little disconnected from the outside world, from friends and some family. I need to work on that. But also, a single person, let's say, who's very career-oriented, I know many people that do this line of work that are single, that are constantly on the go, they probably don't even realize they're disconnected from themselves. So that's great advice to really give yourself that me time, as I like to call it, and connect with your own self. Yes. Well, John and I are guilty of some of those things. The phone is the last thing we look at before bed and the first thing we look at when we first wake up.
Okay, so then I'm going to give John and Jason the challenge for the next 7 days, 1 hour before bed and 1 hour after you get up before you run to the devices.
Can we get the cameras to follow us for the next 7 days?
I would love that. I would love to see tweets on that, and I'm sure all of your fans and followers would love to see if you're able to do that.
I'm willing to try. You willing to try?
And then if they'll jump in. Okay.
He's here with us today, so that's why I'm asking him. We'll give it a shot. We'll see how we do.
Good.
That's
I love
great.
that. And it would be great if all your viewers jump in and do it along with you. So
I think it'll be fun just to see if we can actually do it. And doing things like that, those types of challenges, it kind of brings you to the realization of it too. Like, I didn't realize I was doing this.
Yes. And also, it lets you realize what is it, because you want to gauge your feelings as you're going through this. What is it that's so difficult or frustrating or makes you grumpy? What is it that you think you're missing? And why do you feel you need to connect to it right now?
Yeah, great advice.
That's a great thing to try to gauge.
Oh, I'm definitely going to give it a shot. Are
All
you
right.
game?
Oh, I can't wait.
Right.
Good.
We'll stay in touch on that. But before we go, let's get to the book itself, Consciously Connecting. It is a guide to becoming reconnected in this disconnected world that we live in. Let's just kind of give like a quick overview, if you don't mind, and talk about some specifics that really are close to your heart.
Well, again, I tried to do something that was very simple. So at the most, you would have 3 pages to read at the beginning of each of your weeks. And the book is really structured on not having more things to do, because let's face it, none of us want more to do and more things piled on our lists. We want to do less. So this is about living connection. And from some of the tips that we've been talking about today, you really understand it's about living this connection and not doing more stuff. And the more connected we are to ourselves, to our own internal power, the more powerful we are in the world, in our jobs, in our families, in our own lives, and more present and more conscious. So I started with January hitting the ground a little differently than, we all kind of come out of that 6 weeks of gluttony, I like to say, and people really jump into, they join gyms and they work out 4 hours a day and they stop alcohol and meat and sugar and everything, and then by January 4th, everyone feels like, they're like, I'm a loser, I can't do it. And listen, I've been that person too. I think we've all done that. So for me, what was exciting was to start the year a little differently, which was slowing down, looking at what you're grateful for another week, 5 things in the morning, 5 things at night. Again, if you do that, you're not really connecting to your devices, as we
Right.
talk about. You're spending time doing that. There's another great tip in January where, again, we're kind of hibernating in January, slowing
Yes.
down. So you unsubscribe to a minimum of 2 emails a day. How often have we opened up our inboxes and we moan and we groan because there's too much inbox clutter,
Yeah.
which clogs our mind as well. So it's doing that. So January started a little differently, and now we're just about in June, and June is about going out and playing and reconnecting to childhood playtime.
Yes, we are coming into June. Summer's around the corner, my
Yes.
favorite time of the
Yes.
year. So this is actually a great time to start some of these challenges because you want to
Fabulous.
embrace the surroundings. Everything is sprouting now. Everything is beautiful. The beach weather's coming up. This is a good time to start.
Have you looked at June? Have you perused it? Looked
I'm
ahead?
almost there.
Okay.
I'm almost there. I'm actually going to bring it with me on our cruise in a few weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because I like to read and like lounge out. We have some days at sea, so I have some days where I can just. I love to read on the boat.
Well, this is going to be great. So again, for all your viewers, you can jump into this whether you have the book or you don't. So simple tips. So the first thing, June is all about connecting to playtime, and we forget to do that as adults because we are so busy in our everyday lives. So you are going to start with your first week, and you're going to start with looking at what was great about your childhood. What did you love to do? Did you love to go to the batting cage? Then you make an opportunity to go to the batting cage on Saturday. And if you can go Sunday and if you can go Wednesday, you go. Did you like bowling? Did you like climbing trees? Now for me, I loved climbing trees, finding caterpillars and putting them in my little Skippy jars. I don't know that I'd be able to get out of the trees so successfully, or maybe even up the trees so successfully at this point. So what's great for me is I kind of reconnect to that love and what it was like to birth those monarch butterflies from, watching from the cocoon. And I sit out under the trees and I go back to that time, and it takes me back to the spontaneity and creativity of being a child, which kind of re-engages me to new things in my life and where I am today.
Wow, that's so great. And just revisiting those, I mean, it gives you this feeling of fulfilledness,
Yes.
right? Is that a word? Did I make it up?
You're fulfilled, yes.
I'm fulfilled.
Absolutely.
Well, Holland, thank you so much once again for opening your doors up to us today. What a great interview, and I know that we've changed some lives out there today.
Oh, I hope so, and I look forward to hearing about your continued journey,
Yes.
you and Jason, as well as from your viewers.
Absolutely. Well, if anybody would like more information on Holland, you can always visit her website, hollandhaiis.com. Be sure to pick up the book and give the challenges a shot. You do not need to wait till January next year. You can start now. And as always, you can visit me on the web, jasongalka.com, catch up on what you've missed, or rewatch your favorites. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. See you next time.